Hi everyone, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Dan.
Welcome to J&D Gardens.
If you're a new viewer, welcome. Please support the channel by planting that subscribe button. And if you're already a viewer, welcome back. Well, it is an absolutely beautiful Easter Sunday morning, and we have a very special episode for you today. It's going to be a follow-up to our DIY stone pathway video, where we show you how to make a stone pathway using the Quikrete pathway maker template. We're going to be answering questions that you, the viewers, have left us. So stick around. Welcome back. So we're here in Garden East, and for those who don't know, this is our showcase garden where we grow all of our canna lilies. And as you can see, this is where we have a majority of our DIY stone pathway. So we're gonna jump right into the questions. Jackie, first one.
Okay. Such a Cali girl has asked, well, actually it's more of a comment. You guys, that looks great. I've never liked those forms, and I think it's more because the ones I've seen get done turned out so ugly. But it could be that the ones I've seen people make, they use the cement with gravel in it, which doesn't look clean or smooth. But this here looks very nice.
Well, what we do to get that look is we actually do use regular concrete, and it has a lot of gravel in it. But when we mix up the concrete, as if you remember from the video, we actually mix it up a little soupier. And when Jackie's working in the template, she actually tamps down the stones from the top and allows all the slurry to come to the top, giving a nice smooth surface. And as it's drying, Jackie comes by and tries to smooth out all the edges. So there is a lot of gravel, but there's some things you can do to get that smoother look.
Sue Magdalene says, could you use the form to make a patio? If so, how much weight could it hold?
That's a good question. I do see a lot of people using this template to make patios, and it can hold a lot. The concrete actually is a little over 2 inches thick when it's totally poured. But what happens with where the stone pathway really works well is in small areas. And let me explain. The whole purpose of the pathway is so that you don't have to do too much prep work. If you remember from the video, I say this is a kind of a self-leveling system. So when you put it on the ground, if the ground's not perfectly even, the concrete will set and form to those areas as long as you have it smooth on the top. So when a patio is done, you actually prep a large area. The contractor or whoever you have work on it will flatten out the surface, make sure it's perfectly leveled, and then they'll add the pavers. That's why you have a patio that's nice and smooth. If you're not doing that same level of prep work, which is what the pathwaker is supposed to help you with, then you might get uneven spots trying to put the template together. As you can see, we have long rows, but they're only about 4 feet wide, which is 2 template spaces. If we try to do a big area, I think we'd probably have a lot of different levels and pitches because our ground's not perfect level. So if you do want to use the pathmaker to make a patio, then you'll probably want to do a lot more ground prep to get it as flat and smooth as possible.
Okay. G-Trian says, can this be done over concrete or only on dirt?
Absolutely. This kind of goes to the first one. It can absolutely be done on concrete, because usually a concrete surface is going to be extremely flat. So if you put the template on there and build on top of it because you just want the look, and it's going to be fine. You won't have that problem with the different pitches and everything like that. So once, depending on how big, I mean, if you have a lot of cracks in your concrete and you're just trying to cover it up, it might help with that too, but obviously you have some cracks in your concrete. That means the ground is shifting, so you'll probably have the same unlevelness down the road in the future as the rest of the concrete slab drops or moves. So will the template form that you made.
Okay. Humberto Santos asks, What type of concrete mix bag did you use?
Now, the question is asked about a lot. What kind of concrete to use? Well, Quikrete and other manufacturers that make a similar template recommend you using a crack-resistant concrete. And the real difference between the crack-resistant concrete is that it has little shards of fiberglass inside, and as it's mixed and it dries, those fiberglass strands help hold it tighter together, and it works fine. Problem is, we find that it's more expensive, and when we do our pathway, we're not really doing it in high traffic areas, so we really didn't see the need to use the crack resistant. At some point, and other times we have, but it's just so much more expensive. We use standard high strength concrete, and we've been using it for years, and we don't have a problem and with cracking or anything. One of the things to take into consideration when using that fiberglass concrete is the handling of it, and I'll let Jackie explain.
Yeah, one time well, actually the only time that I used it was, and I learned a very valuable lesson. I did not have the proper gloves to use it with, and I wound up using just regular garden gloves, which was not a good idea. Get very, very strong gloves, because what happened was every time I scooped up some of the cement with the fiberglass in it, I did not realize that it was actually cutting into my fingertips. I didn't realize that until I went to take the gloves off and I washed them under some water, and then I felt it. Little teeny weeny paper cuts all throughout your fingertips, and I had them on every single fingertip. So it made typing very difficult the next week. So please wear proper gloves if you're going to use that type of cement.
Definitely, you want to use any kind of protection that you can. If you saw in the video, what Jackie does is she uses a pair of rubber gloves underneath, like surgical gloves, and then she'll use another pair of heavy-duty gloves, and that's with regular concrete, let alone the fiberglass one. The next question.
Okay. Ernie O asks, do you have any problems with the stones cracking? And how long do I have to wait until I'm able to walk on them?
And that's a perfect question, a follow-up question with that. So, like I said, we use regular concrete, and no, we don't have a problem with the cracking. What the important thing with any concrete, whether you're doing a concrete slab, whether you're doing the form, is you have to let the concrete cure. And it's very important that if you remember that day where we did it, it was a very, very hot day. I think I said it was hit like 95. I think it hit hotter. So don't do it on that day, first of all, on a day like that. But as concrete dries, you have to let it dry slowly. If concrete dries too quickly, then it becomes very brittle. So what we do is when we pour the concrete in the forms, we'll actually let it dry slowly, and we'll keep spritzing it with water for the rest of the day. Now you'll probably, that will help it cure slower. By the next day, it's going to be dry enough to the touch, but you're probably not going to want to walk on it for at least, I'd say, a good 3 days, just to be safe. But you definitely want to let it dry out as best as it can, and give it some water so it doesn't do any cracking.
Okay. Ann Pearson, POW, writes, looks great. I agree about the country stone look. Could you get the same look by using the concrete stain in the jointing sand?
Now that's an interesting question. The look that we use the dirt in between the gaps, and that's because we like that look. And this person's asking whether they can kind of stain the hardscape or whatever kind of stone dust that's used in the center. I would say that would probably be pretty difficult because you're going to need a lot of it spread over a big area. So if you try to put in that color, even if the color did take, it's gonna be pretty difficult to get it consistent unless you're doing a big giant batch, you know how much you need. So I would probably say not to mix in any kind of dyes or pigments to the stone dust or whatever you're gonna, or the hardscape, because I think the consistency, you'll never get the consistency. Dirt is dirt, but stone, if you didn't put enough color here and you put too much over there, it might look muddled. So you wanna probably stay away from that.
Leslie Napier writes, I'm wanting to use 2 different colors in each template. Think that would work good?
Well, here's the thing with using 2 different colors. Yes, you can obviously do it, but the stone, you're actually, when you're doing the template, you're actually putting concrete in it. So if you wanted 2 different colors, you'd probably have to mix a batch of, let's say, the red that you're going to use and the, I don't know, brown or whatever color you're going to use, 2 separate batches. And then it'd be kind of a lot of work to kind of mix this stone in this color, mix this stone in this color, and vice versa. So if you want the 2 different stone look, different color looks rather, I guess the best thing that I would tell you is let it dry out, let it cure for a while, and then use a concrete stain to do that, because it'll be a lot easier to do one at a time as opposed to making 2 different batches and going back and forth. We'll talk a little more about the concrete stain a little bit later.
Matt Alexander writes, I like this a lot. I think this is going to be a solution for my groundwork to my outdoor kitchen extension.
Hey, great. That's what these forms have been around for a long time, and if you can use it to up the look of an area that you're doing, that's great. And remember, it comes in a couple of different forms. You don't have to have the concrete look. I believe there's a basket weave, and I forget the other one off the top of my head, but some great looks, and it's, like I said, it's really easy to do, and just a little bit of labor, but can save you a ton of money and give you some great looks.
Jackie Hutcherson says, I'm very inspired. Enjoyed your instructional technique. I was quoted $12,000 for a driveway and garden path to my front door, about 100 square feet of concrete. I'll certainly be attempting the path myself. Do you have any DIY driveways?
Yeah, when it comes to driveway, yeah, that's a whole different animal. Let me explain. See, a pathway is different. The average person's gonna weigh about 200 pounds or so, so this concrete can more than handle that. But a driveway is different. You're running cars over it. There's a lot of prep work that comes to doing a driveway, kind of similar to doing a patio. I mean, they really dig in, depending on how many cars you're going to put on your driveway, they're going to dig pretty deep into the ground and really get that compacted down before they'll lay the pavers or asphalt or whatever you're going to use. So there's really not too many DIY driveways that I would recommend. Stick with the pathway, maybe a patio, but definitely keep this away from your driveway, because yeah, it's just gonna be too much weight with cars.
Sharon Shirley, SEAS Gospel Ministry writes, very nice, very informative. Thanks for sharing. Where can I get the mold to buy?
Okay. And this mold is very common. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's or anywhere online. We'll leave some links to them below from Amazon. And there, like I said, there's a couple of different styles. If the country look is not for you, there's a few others. So take a look at them, and they're pretty available online.
Erica Walling writes, I like that you include all the information on the costs and options.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, here's the thing. When we made that video, I think it was about 8 or 9 months ago. Mm-hmm. So it's important. We like showing the cost of things, but costs fluctuate. Seems like by the day now. So what might have been a certain price then will be different now. But we do like to leave all our links below, so that will link you through Amazon and other places. So it'll tell you the most common price. So, but just know when that's made, prices change. So, you know, you just do your homework. But the reason I put that in the video, because I want people to think about doing their do their homework before doing it, before actually starting the project, so they know all the different costs that could come up.
Okay, here's a question unrelated to the stone pathway, but we thought we would include it anyway. Betsy B writes, where do you guys get the signs made for your gardens?
Well, Betsy, the truth is we actually make them ourselves. Like I said, we're very big into DIY here, And we really couldn't find anyone that could make it exactly the way we want to. And if we did, it would cost a fortune. So we designed the different signs all throughout the different gardens, and wherever we can change the materials up, adding metal for the compass and carve out the wood, we do it ourselves. So, but nice question. Thanks for asking.
Now, this is a question we get asked a lot, and it has to do with the weeds growing in the gaps. Pulse Congregate says, I wouldn't use those weed killer in my worst enemy's house. Use a weed barrier instead. Apart from that, great video.
All right, I think to answer this question, we're gonna bring you a little closer to show you some of the stones. All right, so like we said, this question is asked a lot. People ask, why don't you just use a weed barrier underneath to stop the weeds from growing? Now, the thing with weed barriers, it all depends on how you do your stones. Like we said, we like to use dirt in between the stones because we like the look. There are different things you can use. We mentioned in the video using hardscape from Quikrete, and other people said decomposing granite. There's a lot of different things. But so if you use those things, you're not going to even have a problem. You probably won't even need the barrier because weeds aren't going to grow through these stones. They're going to grow in the cracks. And if you have the stone dust, probably nothing's going to get through that. But let me explain to you, and I got a little show and tell here to kind of show you. So let's just say this piece of wood represents the ground, whatever it would be, whether it be dirt or whatever have you. Let's say I found a piece of old ground cloth here. So let's say I have the ground cloth here. Okay, that's going to stop weeds from growing through the cracks. Now, let's just say growing from the ground. Now, let's say that these are our stones. I didn't have any of these, but these are just some pavers I had lying around. Okay, so if you have the stone dust in there, probably not much anything's going to grow in the stone dust, and nothing will grow through the weed barrier. But what we said in the video, we like to use dirt. So weeds are going to grow in dirt no matter what. So if we fill in the gaps with the dirt to get the look that we're looking for, like we did here, this becomes in all actuality a pot or a planter bed. So weeds are going to grow in here no matter what. They're not going to grow through the barrier. They're going to grow in the cracks in the dirt. So all the weed barriers, we can put 50 layers of weed barriers. That's not going to do anything. If you're using the dirt, it's going to grow there. That becomes the media which it grows in. So I did say in the video that having using the dirt doesn't come without its problems, and it does. But let me just move this out of the way. As you can see, over the winter, we've had a few weeds grow in between, and that's to be expected. You know, we're not out here in Garden East much because nothing's growing over the winter. So, you know, we get a little lackadaisical too, and we'll have to come by and clean it out. Now, during the spring and summer when we're planting everything, we're here every day because we want to check out our canna garden. So we're weeding constantly, and we're keeping on top of it, or using some kind of weed killer or weed clear. So the reason that I mentioned in the beginning in the video about using that Orthos ground clear is because to start it off, weeds can grow overnight. They do. And as you're doing the project, maybe you're going to get it all in one day, maybe you're not. But anything that's growing as you're working, you want to make sure you kill it off as quick as possible. Now, there are if some people don't like if some people don't like using these chemicals killers to clear the ground, that's fine. I understand that. Not everybody's into that. I was actually showing the video just to make it a little easier for you. There are homemade concoctions that you can come up that we've used in the past. I believe it's like a gallon of white vinegar with a cup of Epsom salt and a teaspoon of Dawn. and it makes a great weed killer. So we'll leave a link, we'll leave the recipe for that down below. I think, Jackie, there was another question asking very similar.
Yes, KMF said, could you use regular sand instead of topsoil? I think that would be the most cost-effective and discourage weeds.
Exactly, and that's where it comes out. It all depends on what look you want. We wanted a natural look, so we got to deal with the weeds. If you don't care and you don't mind the look of it, you don't need that natural look for it, then use the hardscape or any of the bunch of media that you use. Absolutely, this is just our preference.
Okay, along the same lines, we have another person who wrote something. Mary Rogers writes, what about filling the gaps with Irish moss?
Irish moss, that any kind of moss would look absolutely awesome. If that's something that you would want to grow in between, great. Probably stops the weeds so much because the moss kind of overpowers that. It all depends on what kind of look you want. Now, if we were more in a country setting look here, I think that would be amazing. But for us, I don't think so. I just don't. We talked about different kind of moss in the past, and we didn't think so. We don't want anything. I think the moss would look so great. I think it would kind of take away a little bit from the cannas. So we kind of just wanted to leave it. The pathway is the pathway, and we thought we'd just have enough of a look by having the country stone look. For us here, I don't think it would look right. But in your setting, if it looks, that would look great, you have more of a country earthy setting, absolutely, that's gonna look amazing. And please, if you do it, please leave some pictures. We'd actually absolutely love to see it.
Angeli Cruz writes, hello, can the stones be painted and how, or what kind of paint should I use?
That's a good question. So you don't actually paint stones, so you're not using a paintbrush, you're using a stain, which is applied by spraying. And a lot of manufacturers make it. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, all the different brands, Bear or Olympic, they have a stone stain. And what you would do, you would use a pump like this. They have these everywhere. I think this one I got from Harbor Freight. I've had this for years. And what you do is you'll mix it inside. You'll have it mixed inside the drum, and you'll spray the stones down till you get the kind of color that you want. It's a little bit of a process. You want to let it dry and see how it is, and maybe apply some more. But it's pretty easy to do, and you can get your colors a lot easier. When concrete dries, it dries white like that. Now, this is an example of using color. These stones we did 10 years ago.
Probably about that.
We had these way on the other side of our property, and we wanted to reuse it. And if you remember in the video, I kind of talked about that I'm thinking of staining the rest of them to kind of match up with this gray here. We added, I believe it was a powdery mix or a liquid mix, I forget, something to get a deeper gray so it looked a little more natural. So, but I remember in the video I mentioned that could be kind of expensive because the amount that you would need to, depending on how much concrete you're going to mix. So look into stains for concrete. It's very easy to do, and you can definitely get the look that you're after.
Diana FL writes, how bad was your chemical burn and how long did it take to heal?
All right. Now, if you remember from the video, I talked about being careful. Jackie talked before about wearing gloves because a million things can happen when you're working with these kind of materials. And what happened is, I had mentioned the year before, I was laying a concrete slab, actually for that shed that I have right behind me. It was a big concrete slab. It was around 6 inches high and 15 by 8, and it was so hot, and I was mixing the concrete. I had to mix like I think it was like 75 or 100 bags. I can't remember, a little while ago. And I was just wearing a regular t-shirt, and I kept all the dust from the stone and sweat was just mixing in, and that can cause a chemical burn, and it did. I think I showed some pictures in that video. So how long did it how long did it take to heal? It took a while to heal. I actually wound up having it got so bad because, of course, I look at it like I'm feeling the pain. I'm like, I got to get this done. I muscled through it, which was the worst thing to do. So I had to go to see my doctor about it. They gave me special cream, but it stayed with me for months and months. So it was pretty bad if you remember from the picture. So just be mindful and wear the proper clothing. If you see that it's just getting all over you too much, take off your shirt, get another one. And you don't want that. It's a nightmare, and it's going to stay with you for a while. I'd say a good 6+ months to finally get rid of it all.
Jules V asks, after you use the template, is there anything special you need to clean the mold?
Really great question. There's nothing special you need to clean it if you do it right away. And I am guilty, if you can see this in the camera. A lot of times I put it away wrong. Last time I used it, I thought I cleaned it, but I didn't. If you're using it right then, and even in between, if you're doing a lot, you're going to want to just hose it down, because as you're working, concrete will dry in it little bits, and you don't want to start messing with your form and make it irregular. So just hose it down after using it. But if you're a fool like I am and didn't clean it out, now it's going to be a nightmare for me. What I'm going to do with this, if you can see, there's a lot of, if I hit it, some of it's breaking off here. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to lay this flat on the driveway, get my pressure wash it, and go to town on it, and both sides. So no, it's not difficult to clean. It's plastic, it's hard plastic. I've had this forever, over 10 years. So it's very durable. It can even withstand the pressure washer, but you're just creating more work for yourself like I did. So just be mindful. Just take it. If you have a water hose, hose it down. If you're using the trough to mix the concrete at the end, just kind of scrub down the areas. Just make sure you got every little corner, because as the buildup happens in these corners, it can, like I said, it can make your stones look irregular. So you don't want to do that. Just regular cleaning. You don't even need soap and water. Just hose it down with the water hose, and you're going to be fine.
Hillary Pats has a couple of questions for us. So she says, I just bought 2 of these molds used on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm looking forward to testing it out this summer. I see you were in New Jersey and I'm in Minnesota, so I'm thinking pretty similar freezing issues in winter. Now, number 1, have you had any issues with heaving at all? I was thinking it would need a base layer of compactable material. We call it class 5 in Minnesota, but you didn't use this.
So for those who aren't familiar with heaving, heaving is when the ground can shift because of the frost and the water kind of changing the surface. And we actually don't have that there are problems like that here in New Jersey. We don't have the problem here. If you've heard mentioned before, we actually here where we live, very, very shaly. It's actually more shale than it is topsoil. So it's already like working on bedrock. So we just have to kind of smooth things out a little bit, and we're fine. So we don't have that problem. Honestly, the same thing with laying a concrete slab. You could just kind of pour right on it, very little prep. But in your area, it seems like you have a lot of good topsoil, and I'm actually envious of you. So you have to do more prep work because the ground is so soft. So you probably have to dig down, put a base material. But that's what this stone pathway is supposed to be for. It's a very little prep, so you don't have to go through the hassle of prepping the ground that much. Like I said, it's a self-leveling system, so it'll fill in all the gaps and crevices underneath. But if you get problems with shifting in your soil, then you have to kind of dig it up. But here, this is as like working on an iron plate. Digging is terrible. So if you do have an area, you'll probably want to dig a little bit, crush down some stone, whatever material, just to get it nice and smooth. Absolutely, and level. Yeah. You had another question?
Second part is, also, I'm considering this for my front walkway. How easy or hard do you think it would be to shovel snow from? Seems like if it's pretty level, it would be similar to pavers. If it heaves and gets irregular, it could be a pain.
Let me grab a shovel for that one. All right, Hillary, I got my snow shovel here, and I'm gonna answer that question for you. So let's say that you have even a flat, talk about the heaving. Let's say you have a flat sidewalk and you have cracks in the concrete. Obviously, shoveling would be terrible because you have different levels. We don't get that so much here with the heaving, but we do with the temperature changes, but we do with the trees that grow up by the sidewalk, and they'll often crack the sidewalk, and it's terrible. It's a very hard shoveling, or using a snow machine either. So when it comes to the stones, let's just say even if you have it flat, for this particular one, the country stone, yeah, it could be a bit of a problem because the whole thing is with the country stone look, it's supposed to be a bunch of different stones and it has bevels on the edges. So if you're digging, you could actually hit the ends. Now, if hit the sides as you go through. Now, if it's snow covered, you'll probably be able to get the first layer off, and you'll probably build up a lot of snow in the cracks. So if you're lucky, it'll smooth out, and you can get it right up to the stone. But you'll still have stones. You'll still have snow in the cracks, and that could be a little slippery too. So just something to think about. I don't imagine it. I've not actually shoveled here in the winter, and we get plenty of snow here. So just it could be a little more work. I'm not saying that it can't be done. It obviously can. You just might have to kind of do some scraping as well, just to make sure you get down to the stone, and you'll probably get caught a few times with the shovel. So.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so lastly, she also writes, how about using it on a slope? Do you think if I pre-poured the stones, transferring them to a slope after drying, that would work?
Okay, so that's a good question with slopes and pitches and anything. Absolutely. Can't really see it from here, but the difference between the top of Garden East down to the end of Garden East this end is about 35, 40 feet, and is actually quite a pitch. It's about, if I had to guess, about 8 inches or so from there to there. So you won't have a problem with that. The best thing that I would tell you is you don't want to make your mixture too soupy. And what I mean is you want to put the right amount of water. You want it very stiff. So when you're laying when you put the template down and you're laying the concrete in there and you pull it out, if it's too soupy, it'll kind of fall over like a cake or something, or
exactly,
whatever,
like a cake.
Or maybe bad Jello. I don't know, or very loose Jello. I don't know.
Really bad Jello.
Really bad Jello. But if you have the right mixture, if it's just stiff enough, once you pull the template out, it's going to stay. It's not going to slope or anything. It's not going to tilt or anything. It'll stay level to the ground. So you are not going to have a problem. I really wish, no sense in filming because you really wouldn't be able to see, but trust me, there's a big pitch here. You'll be fine. You might want to test it and test an area and just to make sure that your mixture's not too soupy. Usually if you follow how much water the concrete bag tells you to use, you're going to be fine. It'll be a little harder to work with. If you remember the video, I was adding some more water just to get a little soupier. But if you stick with that mixture, you're going to be fine. It's going to be very stiff, and it'll handle a slope. I mean, within reason. The birds are out. Definitely spring. And as far as moving it, like we mentioned, this area right here are stones that we did probably about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And we moved them over. Now, we were going to get rid of them, but we said, let's use them. And when we did this area, because we didn't want to get extra concrete, and it was back at the end of the garden. And what we had to do is we had to move them, one by one. It's very hard to move a 24 by 24, 2 foot by 2 foot area at a time. One, it's going to be extremely heavy. Remember, each form takes an 80-pound bag of concrete. So we were throwing them in a wheelbarrow and putting them in. But remember what I said, that if you take it from one area and move it to another, the ground the conditions of the ground might be different. So one would be like putting a terrible, hard, a very difficult jigsaw puzzle, and it is. And some of the stones might be higher and lower than others. And I don't know if you can see that in the video. And the reason is because this stone was probably done with that one and mixed around. So when you mix it all together, it becomes a little bit of a mess. The new area that we did is perfect because it was brand new. But this area was a mixture of an old pathway we did, like I said, around 10 years ago. So I don't recommend doing that. Very heavy, hard work. The slope is going to work fine. If, like I said, don't make your mixture too soupy. Any other questions? That's it?
That is it.
So actually, Hillary, that was a perfect segue for the next video that we're going to be doing. We're actually going to be yet again changing Garden East around. We're going to be adding more than a dozen cannas to our collection. So we have to make room. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting down these planter beds, adding new planter beds, and we're going to have to work the stones again, and obviously we want to reuse as much of it as possible. So we're going to show you how to slide the stones, how to change the size of the planters, add new ones, slide the stones over, reuse them, and try to get them as level as possible and finish off the area. So it should be a really good video. I think you'll really enjoy it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope we answered a lot of your questions. Please, if you have more questions, leave us a comment. We try to answer as many as we can. Try to answer them by the next day, if possible. So, and if you have any other comments, again, leave those as well. So be sure to hit like and subscribe and ring that bell to keep you alert of any new videos coming on. And from all of us here at J&D, till next time, remember, yes we canna.